Okay, we're live. Okay, well, hello. I'm so excited that today we have a special guest, Phyllis Ginsberg, and we're going to talk something really important. So, have you ever wondered, is salt bad for me, or is it okay? There's so much information, but it's so contradictory and like confusing. We don't really know what to believe. So today, Phyllis and I am gonna talk about salt and then demystify the salt for you. So Phyllis Ginsberg is known and beloved by lots of happier, healthier, and then less stressed working professional as survival to thrival expert. She's the author of two books. Do you happen to have the book?
I sure
Brain
do.
worker. Yeah, like bring like just show us the yeah,
Um,
sorry, I should have asked, right? The brain
Brain makeover
makeover. Yes, and the
and
tired hungry no more.
yes.
And she is also one of my recipe tester for my cookbook, Kitchen with the Flexies. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and then we had a very interesting experience during the recipe test. And, I would love you to share your relationship with salt a little bit. Yeah, because, when we were doing the recipe test in our kitchen, you were like, Mari, I don't use salt at all. And you were
Exactly.
very adamant about it. Tell us a little bit about it.
I have been living a life of prevention and a healthy lifestyle since I was 19. And for decades, I didn't use salt at all. And then Mari asked me to taste test some recipes. And I said, well, I don't use salt. So I'm happy to make it and test it, but I don't use salt. And she was really persistent to say, but you have to try the difference that a little salt will make in bringing out the flavor.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, let me add something. Well, first of all, can you tell the audience like why you were so adamant about not using salt at all?
Well, I grew up with my dad putting salt on everything and my mom
Mm-hmm.
eating really unhealthy, and she had a lot
Mm,
of health issues and died at 37.
mm.
So
And how old were you at that time?
I was
37. That's
15,
crazy. What?
I was 15 when she died.
Oh, that's
But I knew
okay. Sorry.
at a really young age that what you ate mattered and what you put in your body mattered. And so
Mm-hmm.
I chose to live like the healthiest lifestyle that I could learn about and do. And there was a lot of talk about that if you had too much sodium, that you would end up with high blood pressure. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely didn't want that. I was stressed out enough trying to figure out life. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just cut out all salt. And that's how I lived my life because that's what I had learned.
Mm-hmm. And then were you eating processed food and stuff, like snacks and stuff, or not at all?
No, mostly plant-based, vegetarian, primarily vegan. Uh,
Right.
yeah,
Without
very
salt.
without salt.
Hmm.
Very healthy
Yeah.
diet.
So what happened during the recipe test
Yes.
is that yeah. So I was like, well, but I really want you to like try it a little bit. But then Phyllis was like, I don't use salt. I don't use salt. So I was like, okay, well, if you don't use salt, let's see what happens. And then I basically allowed you to not use salt at all. And then remember what you said after you finished making the first dish. I remember it was a Turkish, yeah, this thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were making this recipe, tomato and onion base, and
Yes.
then we were making this Turkish green beans thing, if you remember.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then first we did not use salt at all.
Right.
And then do you remember what you said?
Yeah, we did 2 taste testings. We made one
Oh,
recipe with
it was more than two tasters. There was like about 10.
but we made the same recipe with salt and without salt. And
Right. And then do you remember what happened when we didn't put any salt at all?
Yeah, it was more bland.
Yeah, I do remember you said that you were making like a weird face, and then I was like, "What's wrong?" And then you were like, "It's not as flavorful, but I thought." And then I was like, I wonder why. Why do you think? And do you remember what you said at that time?
I think I said something like the salt is actually bringing out the flavor of the vegetables
Right.
and the dish. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I ask you, like, let's experiment. And then you add like about 3 grains of salt. And then started to add a little more and then a little more. And then you were like, oh, wow, I started the food better. Shall we use more?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun that day.
Yeah, we did. And that was the I don't know if I should say my or like Phyllis's introduction to the power of the soul. So so now do you now use salt in your cooking?
Uh, I do use a little bit of salt. I love like roasted cauliflower or air fried cauliflower with a pinch of salt on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I make soups, I might put a teaspoon or so of salt in it.
You probably use
When I was training for half marathons, and I did a full marathon, and I realized that there is a balance in our bodies between sodium, potassium, magnesium. Like we do need some sodium, and so
oh yeah.
since I wasn't I wasn't eating processed foods. This is a piece that's so important, that if you choose to have processed foods, prepared foods, you're eating out a lot. You don't know how much sodium is really in there unless you read the labels, or a menu has it on there. And it's really easy to go over it's like 2,400 milligrams is the daily recommendation of salt, like to not have over 2,400 milligrams of sodium. And if you're just eating fruits and vegetables and whole grains and things like that, you're not getting anywhere close to that. And 2,400 milligrams is about a teaspoon. It's a teaspoon, give or take a little. So I felt really good putting salt in, and that's per serving. That's per day, not per serving.
Right. Yeah. I do remember, like right after the taste test, my husband and I run into Phyllis and then her husband, Michael, and all of a sudden he was like, "Hey, Molly, thank you for, teaching Phyllis to use the salt in our food." And do you think that by adding the salt, you experienced that, during the taste test, our food got much better after we added the salt. But did you realize that any change into your food once you started adding the salt after that historic day?
Yeah, it was a pretty historic day for my husband as well. He likes more flavor, and so not only does our cooking reflect having more salt, it also reflects now having more seasonings and spices. So you open us up to all kinds of fun stuff with cooking.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Yeah. And then so do you have Hungry and then Tired and Hungry No More book? And I understand that you have some recipes in that book. Do you use salt, or how?
Right. So
yeah.
Tired and Hungry No More. Not your ordinary guide to reclaiming your health and happiness has 50 healthy recipes. And some of them do say salt or salt and pepper if desired. And so I didn't want to discourage people from using salt. I also have research in the book based on recommendations for sodium, for healthy living, healthy eating, and also healthy mind, what you think, and how to develop healthy habits.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you said that, salt change your dishes for the better. And then you also said that using salt affected your health in a better way, right? Because of the balance of your, balance needed for your body and stuff.
Yeah, I think that by looking at more current research that I wasn't as afraid to use salt because I wasn't consuming processed foods, packaged foods, and I also recognize that our bodies do need it. And
yeah.
And when I was younger and first came across this healthier lifestyle of eating, it was like, no salt at all. That's all that they preached. And so coming to a place of a little bit's okay.
Yeah.
And actually we do need it.
Right. Yeah, we do need it. And then as a matter of fact, when we sweat or when we lick up, when we cut ourselves and everything and then lick our fingers and everything, how does it taste? It's salty.
Right.
Yeah. And, the bottom line is that, salt gets a bad rap primarily because of excessive added sodium in processed food and then, fast food restaurants and stuff. And then, like about 10 years ago, Jamie Oliver has the show, and then he was maybe more like about the added sugar and everything. But if you really read the labels and everything, you'll be shocked how much salt is added, because that a lot of salt and sugar and then fat makes food palatable, and then that's how they make their processed food or snack, whatever, really addictive, and then you just can't stop, and then they can sell a ton. But because of that, if you're eating a lot of it, and then I feel like it's that alone is bad. So if people want to reduce the salt intake, it's better to cut it out from there, because if you're eating home cooked meals without any salt, it's so bland and then doesn't taste very good, unless they're really, really good, was, healthy eating and then all that. It will be too bland, and then you would just go say like, I'm a bad cook, I'm going to eat something else. And then without knowing, these people will be adding a lot more salt in their bodies. And, many professional chefs believe that learning to salt the food properly is one of the most important skills in the kitchen. And as a guideline, they say, like we just talked about it, but the ideal saltiness of the food is 0.8 to 0.9%. And that includes the natural saltiness of food. And, it's really important to taste your food a lot, just like Phyllis and I did during the taste test, because it started to enhancing, and then after a while it just becomes saltier and saltier. So when you taste test and then it's like, it needs a little more salt, you can add more. But then around the time which you feel like, oh, this is good, it's time to stop. Yeah. And then not necessarily, blindingly, trust the recipe or just dump it in. Yeah. So another thing I wanted to add about salt is add salt gradually, and then taste. I just mentioned that taste food frequently, but by adding the salt at the beginning of the cooking process, it releases the moisture and then add the flavor into the food, because salt adds enhances the natural flavor of the food. So like, do you put like, have you put like salt and pepper on like vegetables and then fruit, and then put some olive oil or something? Have you done it before, Phyllis?
Yes. And yeah. I was so glad that we had that experience, that I could see like the progression of adding salt and seeing the difference it made in bringing out the flavor of the vegetables.
Yeah.
Difference.
Right. Yeah. And Yeah, and then also it helps the ingredients cook a lot quicker, especially when you're cooking like, onions or like vegetables or something. That makes a huge difference. And then also like reduces the amount of oil needed for cooking. So, oil is something gets a bad rap too, but then also we need oil in our body, otherwise we would die. So, yeah. So, what kind of salt do you normally use in your cooking, Phyllis?
I have some pink Himalayan salt that I've been
Me too.
making. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I use the yeah, yeah, Himalayan salt for finishing salt, and then the container is for the pepper. But
Oh,
I use the sea salt. And do you use kosher salt?
not not really.
Okay. Yeah, kosher salt is great for cooking as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's not as salty as seafood. And I mean, not seafood, I mean sea salt. And it dissolve a lot quicker. And yeah, it clings to food well. So I think kosher salt often is the chef's choice kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So much to learn about salt.
I know exactly. And so basically, the bottom line is like, if you want to reduce the sodium intake, cut out the processed food and fast food and stuff as much as possible. Yeah. Sometimes, like, they even use the salt in the soda and stuff, right?
Salt's in all kinds of, I mean, you look at salt and sugar are in ingredients you wouldn't even think should have
Oh,
them.
no. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
reading labels is really important.
Yeah. And then when you see the percentage, you will be like, oh. And then when it really makes a huge difference is when you see the actual serving portion. It's like, what? Like, like uh, one bagel. And when you see like, oh yeah, of course one bagel is one serving, right? And then when you read it, it's like 1/4 of a bagel. It's like, oh. And then I quadruple this, and then it's like 60%. It's like, no.
Hmm.
So like by cooking at home, you can reduce the salt intake as a lot, and you can eat healthier. So yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. And is there anything you want to add?
I would just say that it's really easy to eat a healthy lifestyle with fresh vegetables when you learn how to prepare them in a way that tastes delicious, and adding some
Hmm.
salt did make a difference.
Right. Yeah. And then I think one of the reasons why people don't want to cook at home is that they don't necessarily know how to prepare it delicious, and then they think that home cooked food is bad, or like a lot of vegetarian food and everything. I mean, if you don't use any salt whatsoever, it might taste like rabbit food. And but then when you realize that, oh, vegetarian food could be so good, or any kind of food, I mean, it's like it makes a huge difference, and it helps people to be a lot healthier.
Yeah, and I have to say,
Yeah.
the recipes in your cookbook allow for a wide variety of flavors, so you're not just having the same thing every single time.
Yeah, you can change up the flavors, like condiments and then flavors and then spices, and then you can change from simple food to like Indian, Chinese, Japanese, Greek, wherever the country you want to go. During the pandemic, it's pretty important, isn't it?
Yeah, and your your recipes were so impressive, and I still use them, and
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I highly recommend them because it will give you a variety of tastes with ease of cooking.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And then it's kind of help people whip up like many things all at once, and so that you can eat in like throughout the week and everything. Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. So
Having me. This was really fun.
yeah, it was really fun, and then it's really fun to revisit that experience, because it was, I mean, it was even eye opening for me. Everybody else was just like, okay, yeah, I'll use salt, whatever. But then you were like, no. And then how much difference it made. And then two other dishes we made, I think it was you know, actually it was supposed to be, the Indian curry and then shrimp with chili sauce. The shrimp with chili sauce, we made it vegetarian with the eggplants. But yeah, I remember they taste good because we use salt.
It was
Yeah.
all delicious.
Yeah, good. So, Phyllis, how can people reach you, and where are your books available?
Well, my books are on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, or you can get them anywhere books are sold. If they don't have them in stock, you can ask them to order them or order them online. And my website is myname.com. So that's phyllisginsberg.com, PhyllisGinsberg.com. Look at you. You got
That, yeah, yes.
Perfect.
Good. All right. Thank you so much. And then do you have like Instagram and then Facebook group and stuff too?
Yes. Yeah. And you can probably search just my name and you'll find I have a business page on Facebook and an Instagram page.
Yeah. And then you can probably, people can go to your Facebook and then Instagram through the your website too, right?
Yes. And I also have a Tired and Hungry No More Facebook group. It's
okay.
A private group. And if you want to join, all you have to do is request and I'd be happy to accept you.
Excellent. Yeah. So I will put that into the description after this goes out. Well, it is live, but as the replay on the YouTube. So yeah, you can just click that. All right. Well, thank you so much again, and then great to see you, and hope to see you again soon. And maybe you can invite me over for dinner. You owe one.
You're on. Thank you, Mari.
Well, when the pandemic is over, right?
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you so much again, and then say hi to Michael.
I will.
All right. Thanks again. Bye.